Hello and welcome to another episode of It Came From the Page. And today we are doing a tag because the amazing Michelle's Melancholia tagged me in Fear the Booktuber Tag, which is a fun name for a tag. I just like the name of that tag quite a bit. So yeah, let's get in it. There are 10 prompts or questions. It depends. Some people call them prompts. Some people call them questions. What do you call them? I don't care. Number one, what's your deepest, darkest fear? Hello, we just met, tag. That's, you're just going right into it. I would say just slow deaths. Slow deaths. Either like starvation or there's just the slow, like, loss of self deaths that just, like, amnesia, dementia, Alzheimer's, that type of thing. Like, it's like, I would say the slow deaths are way more scarier than just some guy popping out and be like, oh, I got a chainsaw, and then, like, cop drop it off my head. That would be a pretty fun way to die, though, if some guy was like, you see my chainsaw? It's really cool. I'm like, yeah, it is. Don't use it on me. But then, dead. 2, what's the scariest novel you have read this year? And who's your new favorite horror author you've read this year? So, first off, I think it's hard. There was like a few runners up for this because I've read some good ass horror books this year. I think I'll probably go with Survivor's Song by Paul Tremblay. The first half of that book, I had legit anxiety attacks. Like, I was like right on the verge of having an anxiety attack because it so perfectly outlined the idea of like, you need help but you can't get help, all systems are failing you, because it was published before the pandemic but seems exactly to be about the pandemic, because Survivor Song's basically like a slow apocalypse where people get bitten by a person or an animal and they contract this form of rabies that basically kind of makes them zombies, for lack of a better term. And it is all about like this woman who's been bit and her friend who's trying to get her the help that she needs. And it is just harrowing. It's harrowing. I would say specifically the first half of the book is the scariest to me, although there are some very scary parts in the second half. Just in general, a very good book, a very spooky book, oh my goodness kind of book. Like, oof. It kind of does present the slow deaths that I was afraid of talking about in the first prompt. So yeah, my new favorite scary author that I've read this year, I'm probably gonna go with Jeff Strand. This is the first year I've read any Jeff Strand books. I've only read 2, and that was the Haunted Forest Tour and then the 20th anniversary screening, which is a novella. But either way, I really did enjoy that quite a bit. I think Jeff Strand is an author that I will be following from here on out because he has a very good style. I really, really like Jeff Strand, so hopefully his other stuff is good. Probably, is it Clowns versus Spiders, I think is his other big book that people talk about on Booktube quite a bit and say that it's really fun, so that's probably going to be my next Jeff Strand book. Number 3. What novel/series are you scared to read? Any genre. I don't think I am specifically afraid of reading any particular book. I do have books that are like of specific subject matter that, unless it's handled really, really, really well, I would tend to stay away from. Dealing with childhood predators, and that kind of thing is one of those things where it's, if you do tackle some of those more very, very horrific topics that need to be talked about, obviously, in media and in reality, because it does happen in real life, it's just something that I think you can do really poorly. So, for example, I don't think I would ever going to read Lolita. I don't think I have any interest in reading that book, especially one, knowing how it's treated in a way. Like, I don't know specifics, but I know it's supposed to be more of like a comedic book in some forms. I don't know. I don't trust a book written that far back by a man to deal with that subject matter very well, and I haven't heard the best things about it. So now I have like The Girl Next Door by Jack Ketchum is all about that subject, and it's done extremely well. And horrifying and just will destroy you as a person. So I think like it's one of those things that can be done well if you are doing it respectfully and if you've done your research and you're not kind of talking out your butt. So it's just that would be a topic where, you know, I would need a recommendation from somebody who I trust to dive into the material, I would say. 4. What frighteningly good author do you feel like needs more attention on Booktube? So I did just talk about Paul Tremblay, and I just had this realization that I've read most of Paul Tremblay's books, but I don't think I've ever heard anyone talk about him on Booktube, which is a bit surprising because he's like a fairly big author in the space. So I don't hear many people talk about Paul Tremblay. That's one. But the big one for me is Alex White. And they are the non-binary author who wrote my 2 favorite books in the Alien book series, which is Alien: The Cold Forge and Aliens into Charybdis. And those are amazing books that are really scary, which are really... They have a lot of depth to them, and they are a writer that I think just needs to get more eyes on their work. They've done a whole bunch of other sci-fi materials, so they have materials going from a bunch of different genres. I just think they are specifically very, very skilled in the horror genre, but I do like their sci-fi stuff too, so I have read a lot of their work, and I don't hear anybody really talk about them. So, Alex White, you should talk about them. 5. What's your favorite scary movie? Calm down, Ghostface. That was a terrible joke. I wrote that in the script and it just didn't work when I read it out. But anyways, yeah, it's interesting. So my scariest movie of all time probably is The Descent, which is this movie where a bunch of women go spelunking in the caverns of, I think it's the Appalachian Mountains? It might not be. It's some form of mountain. It's some mountain range. And oh my lord, is there some stuff that happens in that movie that is super scary. If you are claustrophobic like I am, don't watch this movie. Actually do. It's one of my favorite movies of all time, but it will fuck you up. As far as probably one of the best made horror films, I think it's really hard to get anything better than that original William Friedkin's adaptation of William Peter Blatty's The Exorcist. As the way that movie is filmed is really, really interesting and compelling. The way that movie is acted is extremely impressive. And it's one of those movies where I kind of think it's the only good exorcism movie. And there are a few here and there that are not too bad, but none that ever, to me, that I've seen, has ever matched up with the level of finesse and quality of that original movie, The Exorcist. 6. Whose channel produces the scariest videos? So this is interesting because I don't think any booktubers really focus on making scary content. They talk about scary books and they talk about them and they examine them in a myriad of ways, but I don't know if I've ever really been creeped out by any booktubers' content. Occasionally Juan from Plagued by Visions has some scary stuff. When he translated and read the Hispanic Gothic tales for Horror Mayhem this year, he was literally performing an audiobook, and that was pretty creepy, so that counts. One that I think really does scary work all the time is probably Ryan Hollinger. He focuses more on dissecting horror films, but that also features a lot of scenes from horror films when he's talking about it. And when he gets into like what makes things scary, and like then he shows like the visuals to go along with it, it can actually creep me out quite a bit. So he's probably the one that I'd say does like the creepiest YouTube videos that I know of. That like aren't trying to be horror. Like, you know, there are some that are just like people reading scary stories, and those are obviously really good. 7. A new Horrortuber whose subscriber count is terrifyingly low that deserves more attention. So she's not new. She's been doing this longer than I have. But I think Kelly Hooked on Books does not have enough subscribers. She always seems to be somebody who... I always admire a booktuber who has so much going on in their personal life and they still manage to do booktube videos. And she's one of those people who, like, every time she sits down to do a video, there's like... She has a full household doing a whole bunch of stuff, and she still manages to sit down, talk about books, and I really just like the way that she chats about books. I always like how she's very, like, you know, I don't like this. She's there's no ifs, ands, or buts. If she doesn't like something, she'll say, I don't like it. And she doesn't care however it's viewed anywhere else. It's just basically like, no, this is my opinion, this is how it is. And I very much like that. Also... on Plagued by Vision's Discord channel, she was the only other person who would stand up for the glory of Malignant with me. Everyone was hating on Malignant. And, this is a no Gabriel hate zone. And nobody be hating on my pal Gabriel on this channel. All hail Gabriel. Patron saint of It Came From the Page. 8. If you met Pennywise, what fictional character or creature would it turn into? Probably one of the weirdest fuck commenters on my diversity and horror video. Some of those comments were fucking weird, and I would not want to meet them in real life. 9. What novel scared you so much it gave me nightmares or made you uncomfortable? Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones. It actually gave me nightmares. I had a slew of very strange dreams after listening to this early in January that really affected me in some creepy ways. So yeah, I would give that to the Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones. And 10 is Tag People, but everyone on...
Connect to the Wi-Fi network. You might want to check the connection settings in the Google Home app.
But everyone has been tagged in this video, so it's pretty much everyone has been tagged. Like the creator of this tag tagged a bajillion people in the creation of the tag. If you haven't been tagged and you want to do this, bam, this is it. This is your tag. Go forth and reveal very personal things to people you don't know. Goodbye.